Hello, my name's Lesley Atherton, and this is a short piece of writing called Pity Them. Do I pity the homeless girl who sings in the arcade next to the bus station? There are positives as well as negatives to her means of existence. There's a balance, as there is in all our lives. Pity is pointless, but I do feel sad that she and others were pushed into or felt it necessary to choose a way of life which holds no security and safety for them. But it is quite different when the person involved is real to you. While a student at a famous red brick university, feeling low and lonely one evening, I walked halfway across the city to find an open off-licence. I didn't have a drink problem, was just lonely and needed an excuse to get out of the student halls. I sat on a wall to take a few swigs from my precious purchase. Next to me appeared a huge and odorous lady of the street. I downed a few mouthfuls with some urgency while, in our joint loneliness, we made small talk. I then gave her the rest of my bottle while she told me of how circumstances, out of her control, brought her to where she was. 3 years prior to our meeting, she had been evicted, lost everything, and suddenly there was nobody to turn to. She was alone. Then just as suddenly she recovered from her reminiscences and waddled urgently from me, in mid-conversation, shouting incoherently, her half-hour of human clarity disappearing behind the safer facade of antisocial mental illness. I pitied her then, and still remember the feeling of pity now more than 25 years later. Yet I'm not even sure I know what pity means. My friend pities me my 6-week summer holiday alone with 2 children. I'm barely apprehensive. It'll be great. I pity the men who work away to support their families, yet return home to discover their wife midstream in a passionate affair, or their child suddenly preferring life without them at home. I pity misunderstood and cuckolded family men. I pity the domestic pets abused by messed up people who can't get their kicks unless they're making an innocent creature suffer. I pity those dogs, once canine companions, but now covered with burns and dying of neglect, who are still able to lick the hand of their rescuer. Of course, one bad human does not make a bad species. To their eternal credit, the dogs can see that. Sometimes I can't. I pity neglected creatures, all of them, from unloved to unlovely. I pity a man I knew, a neighbour of Chloe. The man was old and wizened, yet not wizened. In his loneliness, he allowed an alcoholic prostitute and her broken boyfriend to move in with him. Following a visit to her neighbour, Chloe stripped, threw away her clothes and showered immediately in her safe, clean house. I hate to imagine the scenes she witnessed, yet I don't pity her, I pity him, the skeletal, slow man tormented with desperation at his wasting life. Aristotle explains that in order to feel pity, the witness must believe that the person or creature who is suffering does not deserve their fate. It can be confused with many other feelings, compassion, empathy, sorrow and mercy, for example. Realising that pity isn't necessarily beneficial to the party being pitied, I wonder about its point. But here's surely a case of true sadness and pity towards a newborn baby. No, not a new and super-indulged royal son or daughter, but a poor local child. A woman had returned home from this little one's hospital birth and immediately locked her away so she could party. Baby left sobbing and desperate, she eventually drove this inadequate woman who had just borne her to distraction. The new mum was so twisted inside that she didn't even register that it had to be her who would nurture and feed and hug the newborn to get the terrible tears to stop. She didn't love or understand or pity that poor little one who was blameless and brand new in the world. Instead, she hurt her. The baby's bones were thankfully not broken, and nor was her spirit, but my heart was. For 11 months that little child was in the social care system, suffering alcohol withdrawal and worse. She shook and cried, sweated and hurt. I imagine the strength she'd already showed just by hanging on, growing and developing inside her so-called mother, who didn't want her, even as she lay attached to drips and monitors. She'll need all of it now, plus the borrowed strength of those others who give a damn about her. I pity her, and I love her. though I've never met her. My pity makes no difference to her little life. How could it? Only the anger of her neighbours had saved her. They reported the mum and reported the baby's constant cries. They acted. So I wonder if perhaps this is what it's all about. Stopping the pity, getting angry, turning the anger into action, and by so doing, unlocking the potential for good in life's tragedies. Purpose, not pathos. Because I'm learning that pity is pointless. Action is essential. And perception is the key to everything else.